Hi, Paul Nashwati coming to you live from KubeCon EU 2026. I'm here at the Edera booth, and we're here to talk about what you're seeing today. How's the show going for you?
It's going great. We've been meeting a lot of wonderful people, trying to solve some really hard problems, which we're going to do, so it's great.
So Emily, you're the CEO of the company,
I am.
and Alex, you're the CTO of the company. And so what is the top concerns that you're seeing in the show?
What do you speak out first?
Yeah, I think AI is obviously everywhere. I think people are a little bit terrified of deploying AI applications. So really, we're seeing a lot of talk about how to deploy AI responsibly and securely. And Edera really fits into that. So it's a lot of where our conversations have gone.
So Emily, for the audience that may not know, what's Edera do?
So we provide a hardened runtime. So what that means is when you're running your containers in production, you want to make sure that the containers and infrastructure you run are actually secure by design. So that's really where we sit. We make containers actually contain.
Yeah.
And so we harden the runtime environment that you have. So whether you're running untrusted code, running third-party code, running AI agents themselves, we allow for that to be able to run securely, particularly non-deterministic type applications.
Yeah, in my space, I cover app dev, so I hear a lot. There's a lot of validation in the market. There's a lot of companies doing this. So what makes you different? What's your differentiation?
We are secure by design. We actually make the infrastructure that you run on secure versus being reactionary. And more specifically, I know Alex, this is her baby, so we could really dive into it.
I think we fundamentally think about how we do it at the lowest layers of the stack. Most solutions around security in this space are all about adding on layers or solving at the highest layer of the stack. But what ultimately we're trying to do is rethink about how we do computing fundamentally from the hardware up, rather than a software down approach about containers fundamentally in like a Kubernetes cluster. We're really looking at down at the hardware layer.
Very cool, very cool. There's another small show going on across the other side of the world called RSA right now.
Yes.
And they do a lot of security focused areas. Your main persona is the developer? Is that it?
Yes, we talk mostly, well, it's both teams. We're very much like a cross team. So most of the time we come and talk to the platform teams first.
Yeah.
Mostly because they're the ones running the infrastructure and making those changes. But the security benefits are so extreme. We end up seeing both of the teams inevitably. But really, a lot of our core users are here at KubeCon today.
Very cool, very cool. So from the traffic that's coming to the booth, what's the top concerns that people are asking about?
A lot of AI agent sandboxing coming up with kind of OpenClaw and all the new non-deterministic code needs. We're definitely seeing a lot of resurgence in that in particular. Multi-tenancy continues to be a concern that we're seeing, and mostly being able to solve that simplistically and making sure that the things that you're doing are performant. So we're seeing a good amount of discussions there. Is there anything else you may add?
I think AI sandboxing is coming up just so much. And we've built our technology to really accommodate those things. So it's a lot of what our conversations have been.
Yeah, I found that I was saying a lot that 2025 was the year of experimentation and innovation, right? And trying things. 26th year implementation.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of the budget. So we saw that 25% of IT budget was spent on AI projects in 2025. But we didn't really know what that money was being spent for. So now it's being really methodically used for strategic applications.
Yes.
Are you seeing the same thing? Is that?
Yeah, we're seeing the same thing. And, the other thing that's been interesting that's coming up too is like actually using and developing compute on GPUs as well.
Yeah.
So that's kind of another emerging category here with a lot of the GPU clouds and AI infrastructure getting built. We're also starting to see a lot of conversation around like it's the age of inference now. We're going from training to inference.
Yep.
So we're starting to see a lot of that move into in the conversation, which has been super, super fascinating. And people bringing in their own GPU infrastructure in-house, and not necessarily relying on clouds. They're actually being tasked to build, and they're curious how to do that themselves even here, which has been really, really interesting.
Totally makes sense. I mean, I think that there's a lot, and we're in Europe, right? The big thing that sovereignty, data sovereignty, compliance, regulation, and governance, right? Hardened images plays nicely into that. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we are complementary to hardened images. A lot of us came from the hardened images world before. We were private previously, but I don't know if you want to kind of dive into how we had to emerge in there.
I look at it like this. Hardened images is really focused on this idea of CPU reduction and that kind of thing. We're kind of coming in and saying, like, if you can run that image that's also secure on top of a secure platform, then you solve all of the possibilities, all the different ways that things can go wrong. And that really helps a lot of people who maybe are running AI-generated code or AI agents that can be non-deterministic, for example. Giving them a safe platform to run that stuff on is really cool.
Because if you look at the images you're bringing, you have your start, and then you're adding, like if you're asking Claude to code for you, you're adding that code into it, and then you're eventually running it. Well, what happens from the start to the end? We're sitting there protecting at the most, where we see a really critical part, which is at the end.
Yeah, and to me, what I hear is that it helps accelerate the CI/CD pipeline, the SDLC. Yeah. You know, a lot of times people will say to go faster in security, you have to go slower.
Yes.
But you don't. Yeah, you can continue to drive the CI/CD pipeline fast by making sure it's protected from end to end. All right. So top 3 things. What do you want the audience to know?
Ooh, you go first.
AI agents are not ready for production in the sense that a lot of people are building them for on development purposes, but you need a fundamental different way to deploy things into production, and that's what we're doing with Edera. And I would say the next thing is that GPUs are very misunderstood things. Everyone thinks that it's all a solved problem, but there's actually many problems around how GPUs fundamentally are deployed. That's something that I think is understood by the select few people who understand GPUs, but is maybe obscured from a lot of people today.
I can take the third. I have one.
Yeah.
We want security to be an enabler.
Yes.
Like to your point, it really doesn't have to be seen as the thing that slows things down.
Right.
Like if we take a moment to rethink the way we run our compute, we can actually do things well at the same time.
Yeah.
And we fundamentally believe that is the way that things should be, and that they can be. So that's really where we want to.
Well, I agree. I think that my research kind of backs that as well. We'll have to take you down that journey at some point in time. Yes. But for today, I think we're out of time. So thank you for being on with me today.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you. So Paul Nashwati coming to you live from the show floor at KubeCon EU 2026.